I'm going to open up this meeting of the BZA Lancaster County Board of Zoning Appeals. I want to welcome everybody here this morning. I see did everybody, first of all, get your packages in time to review them? Yes. Do you have any questions before we get started on that?
No.
All right, I see we have 3 public hearings this morning, and I will let Ms. Pruitt, if you want to start, we'll start on the first one, which is the Gardenier variance.
Okay. Did you, Mr. Chairman, did you want to approve the minutes from?
Thank you.
Okay.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes, sir?
On the motion?
Second.
Aye.
All right, it's been properly motioned and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? All right, thank you, thank you. All right, I guess we'll start if you want to.
Okay. Second, we're going to turn on the projector. We have a few things there. All right. Okay. Our first public hearing is for Brian and Victoria Gardner of 492 Wharton Grove Lane, Weems, Virginia 22576. This is a request for a variance from Part 1 of the zoning ordinance, the Article 551, the yard regulations, specifically, your side yard regulations. This is an issue that came up during the October 16th board meeting and was tabled. So I'm not going to necessarily go through all the written information there because a lot of it's the same from the previous meeting. However, the original request was for a 12.75 setback from the south sideline and a 12.94 setback from the north sideline. In bringing this back to the board, the applicants have revised their plans and have effectively shrunk down their plans for these additions and are now requesting an 18.5 setback distance on both the north and the south. So there'll be 18 and a half feet from the sideline on both of those sidelines. Since the previous meeting, just a couple of kind of housekeeping, or one kind of housekeeping thing. Previously in the memo, it was mentioned there was a clerical error that said that the county received approval emails from adjacent owners, and that was actually a typo, and that was not the case. So I'm just kind of correcting that again for the record on that. And then at the time of that particular meeting, we had 2 adjacent neighbors that had submitted letters opposing the request. Since between getting this memo and today, there have been a few other public comments that you've received this morning. Some are in opposition, some are in approval, basically, and some are some additional pictures for you. Let's see. Yeah, so since the October meeting, the applicant has modified the floor plan such that the total amount of encroachment into the required 25-foot side yard setback decreased by 11 feet in total. So it went down, shrunk down about 11 feet. In speaking with the applicant, it seems like it's kind of like this 2-phase approach of they want to get the approval for the footprint from the BZA and the association, and then from there, the second kind of phase of that would then be designing the addition, what it's going to look like, more the aesthetics of it, and then going through their HOA to do that. So it's kind of being broken up a little bit into like 2 parts there. As part of what they did between then and now, the applicant sent letters with the proposed footprints to the residents of Wharton Grove, which are 10 property owners in that subdivision, which is required apparently through their covenants and restrictions. That's how you kind of It's kind of how you start the process to get approval. And within that time from so far, she's received 3 specific responses or emails, 2 of which are in your packet. 1 was provided today to you. The applicant since then has also provided some additional more historic pictures showing kind of the evolution in a way of some of the residences in that subdivision, how they've changed. Just to show you here again, this is the site plan, the proposed site plan of where those additions will be, and showing that 18.5-foot setback on either side there. And again, we've got a couple of just site pictures for you showing where they will be putting these additions. This last one, just for context purposes, just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of what the subdivision was, where it is, what it looks like. When we're talking about cottage lots and waterfront easements and things of that nature, this is showing the original subdivision plan, or the plan that was done in 1972, I believe, that identified where all these different areas were. And you'll see in the orange there, that is our subject property. And you can see, at least again, this was done in 1972, so you can see the outline of the existing cottages, on those properties at that time. I think that is it. Does anyone have any questions?
No questions. No questions? All right, well, thank you very much. So I guess now what we'll do is we'll open the public hearing, and I'm going to ask that anybody come up to the podium, and if you just tell us what your name is, and I'm going to ask you to keep this down to about 3 minutes. We don't want to ramble on too much, so we can keep it down to about 3 minutes a person.
Good morning. My name is Andrew G. Burry Jr. I'm an attorney in Urbana. I represent the Gardners. I'll be very quick because I want to have the other people who are familiar with this before you. I understand that there was a question before with the board on whether or not that there were enough perk sites or permission to increase from a 2-bedroom to a 3-bedroom. Well, there is actually a 4-bedroom, and I think that it was submitted to this board to show there is a community drain field that's out there, and each one of them has 4 bedrooms. As you know, this community is the houses on there are for the most part non-conforming with the current zoning. And as you know from your prior package, there has been at least 4 requests by homeowners, some of which have already objected to my client's request for relief from the side setbacks. And in each case, this body, not this board itself, but this body has approved each and every one of those variances. I would ask that you consider the same here. You're going to hear from the contractor who's going to tell you why they can't locate a master bedroom on the first floor. There's a lot of reasons for it. It's for handicap purposes, but also as we all get older, it's harder to climb steps. So that's why my client is asking to come in and to encroach approximately 26% into the side setbacks. As I told you before, this body has already granted side setbacks in the past. And I could get into it, but I'll be very short because you only give me 3 minutes, and be more than happy to answer any questions on why I think that it's fair, but I would rather let you hear from other residents, please. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Good morning. I'm Victoria Gardner. I'm the applicant. I don't know if you remember me from last year, but I have been working with my neighbors. I did revise the plan, taking into account their input, and I do have three neighbors who have been very positive and very helpful and very kind about getting this addition done. I am asking for a handicap accessible first floor master suite for various reasons, health reasons, and I would also like my mother-in-law to come and stay with us. The house, the existing house does not have those amenities. Our bedrooms are upstairs and our main bathroom is up a flight of stairs.
All right.
Do you have any questions?
Anybody got any questions? No. No? No? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Matthew Carr, and I am a resident in Wharton Grove, coming on 5 years now. I own a cottage, which is a euphemism for a four-bedroom house in the Grove. There are 10 such cottages. Some of them, I guess some of the neighbors have objected to this because they feel like it's not in keeping with the historic nature of Wharton Grove, which was established in 1892. And while these were originally tent cottages and pup tents, this small community of 10 cottages has morphed into a mix of year-round, four-season living and winterized cottages. So there's a real mix there. But I have found the gardeners to be very good neighbors. If past is prologue, everything I've seen them do at Wharton Grove has been tasteful and respectful of the property and of the nature of Wharton Grove. One of the first projects they did was a garden outside of their driveway and entryway. They hired a historic preservationist from Williamsburg to plant that garden, and it's one of the nicest gardens in Wharton Grove. I wish we all had nice entryway gardens like that. So if that's an indication of the kind of work they're going to continue to do, then my wife and I are in favor of this variance and allowing them to expand their living quarters. That's it.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you very much. Yeah.
Good morning. My name is Jeff Willis. I'm the owner of Coastal Innovations. Ms. Gardner's contractor. I work hand in hand on a lot of projects around her house with Gordon Construction locally. We've been working on this project for some time, and we've looked at other spaces in the existing footprint of the home to put a master suite. And it's on a slab, and with the slab being that old, cutting into the slab and trying to put plumbing drains for bathrooms and stuff, it's just not feasible. The cost of that would be very extensive. We're not sure of the structural soundness of that slab, so when we get into cutting into it, we're really not sure what we're gonna get. So really the only option to provide her for the space that she's looking for is to bump out the side of the house to give her that adequate space for her mother-in-law to come so they can grow into this property. They don't want to leave this property, they want to grow into this property, and the only way is to reduce those stairs and put a master suite on the ground floor. Thank you.
Morning.
Good morning.
My name's David Burry. I'm actually Andy Burry's son. I also represent the Gardners. And I just wanted to speak very briefly, I guess, on the standard that must be applied by the BZA in terms of deciding whether to grant a variance. I'm sure everyone here is familiar with the Board of Supervisors versus the Valerie Holdings case from the Court of Appeals. And one of the things that I find particularly interesting about that case, which I reviewed before coming up here today, and what I was reminded about, is that before 2015, when the General Assembly amended the statutory provision or framework for variances, it used to be that the BZA had complete discretion in granting variances. Now it's required if certain conditions are met, and we believe that the conditions are satisfied in this case, and that is there are three primary considerations that, that this body must consider, and there are 5 secondary considerations as well. And I just wanted to take a second and just walk through that. The first consideration is that a variance should be granted
if strict application of the terms of the ordinance would unreasonably restrict the utilization of the applicant's property. We feel that that applies here because, as you heard from the contractor just now, it would be cost prohibitive to construct or to add an addition elsewhere on this lot within the property. The second is that the granting of the variance would alleviate a hardship due to the physical condition relating to the property or improvements thereon, and we think that that applies here as well. And it's been satisfied because you're talking about small lots, very small lots, and the shape of the lots are also very narrow, meaning that any improvement on that lot is necessarily going to be very close to the setbacks. The third is a reasonableness issue, which talks about whether or not it's reasonable to add the addition within the variant or within the setback, and we think it is in this situation because you're talking about people who are aging, and I think it's entirely reasonable for an aging homeowner to want to build a primary bedroom suite on the first floor, so they don't have to climb stairs to get to the second floor. Now, those are all the three of the primary. There are 5 secondary considerations, which I won't really go into because I don't think any of those are in dispute, or at least from the objections that were raised by the neighboring landowners. It seemed that only one of those were in dispute, and that's the second secondary factor, which asks whether or not that there's a substantial detriment to neighboring landowners that would be occasioned by this body granting the variance. I do not think, I think any type of claim that there would be a substantial detriment is an illegitimate objection, and that's because, as the county reflected, I think Ms. Pruitt reflected in her memorandum here, I'll just read it. The non-conforming nature of the subject property is not uncommon in the Warden Grove community, and from what I understand from reading a letter in particular from, who was it, Mr. Gary Mason and Sarah Leach, is that they're worried about their property values being impacted or damaged by the variance request. But a lot of these properties have received or obtained or requested variances and obtained them from this body. They are not, the properties are not as they were in the 1800s or in the early 1900s. And what my clients seek to do with this property is not uncommon in the Warden Grove community, as the county acknowledged. And for that reason, we think that this is not a one-off situation. We think that any type of variance that is granted would, or any idea that it would cause a diminution in value to neighboring properties is purely speculative. And so we'd ask that this body make a finding not only as to the 3 primary considerations, that those have been satisfied, but that all 5 of the secondary considerations as well have been satisfied. And the last point I'll make before, because I know I'm probably over 3 minutes at this point, the last point I'll make is that one of the other issues in that letter was this idea that that my clients are still seeking approval from the HOA. And the only point that I would make in that regard is that that's not one of the considerations, the statutory considerations for this body to consider, and it's completely irrelevant. And that's it. I welcome any questions that the board might have, and if none, I thank you for your time.
Good question.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anybody else wish to speak? Glenn, anybody? Brooke, okay. Brooke, are you there?
Yes.
We're here, thank you.
If you just tell us your name and go ahead and speak.
My name is Francis Brooks. I'm here representing my mother, who is the neighboring property owner to the south.
To the north.
To the north. This is the property that would be most impacted by this proposed variance. I understand the points that have been made, but I would like to object to some of them. There are alternative options for them to build the type of variance that they are looking for. They could go out behind their house, and they could easily add a new slab there rather than having to break into any other slab. So there would be an option for them to go backwards away from the river. It seems that their main goal is to increase the amount of river view that they have on their house more than anything else. it would, in our case, it would greatly decrease the river views from our property. And this is not speculative about how that would reduce the value of our property. If we don't have river views from a good 60% of our property, including our patio and including most of the south side of the house, that will substantially reduce the value of our property. And that's not speculative, that's just true. Everyone knows that that's what this is about.
All right, is that, do you have anything?
We've
else?
been there, we've been on this property for more than 50 years. And while I understand that there are variances that have been granted, each of these have really not detracted from the overall value of the Grove as an association. We've kept it very much in the same character that it has been since it was built. And this is a great deal of what adds to the value of the property itself, and we believe it's what makes it as attractive as it is. The proposed variance would be out of the ordinary for that and would greatly detract from our value. It's also, I think, important to note that both of the properties that actually border the Gardners have objected to this, and that the association as a whole, while she has received some support from a few people, the association as a whole, a majority, is objecting to this proposed variance. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate your time.
Which floor is he on, this guy's talking now?
He was on the north side. Anybody else, Glenn? Nobody else? You wish, you can come on up.
And he's opposed to it?
My name is Brian Gardner. I am the co-applicant and owner of this property. I'd like to reply to what Mr. Brook just said, because I think it's important to point out several things. One is that the revised design that we did to the house, it is not possible for our home, even in its current state, to block any view of theirs. It just is not possible. The sun, these homes are oriented north-south. The sun sets east-west. It does not affect the sunlight going into their property at all. I will point out that this particular home, can we pull up a picture, Ms. Pruitt? It's the picture of the 480 Warden Grove home. This home once, go ahead and,
I don't have that on here.
I think it's in your packet.
Yeah.
This home actually once looked like every other traditional two-story cottage in Warden Grove that had a two-story front porch on it, just like the other ones, just like our house. Instead of restoring the property and the house and the cottage, like every other cottage was fully turned into a modern cottage with insulation, heat, plumbing, electricity, every one of them. These people chose to completely demolish their cottage and rebuilt a 3-story house that has taller sidewalls and a steeper roof than every other cottage. It's a huge monstrosity. They do not have a 2-story front porch anymore, not across the entire house. They have like a little corner of the house. It literally looks like a warehouse next door to our house. That's what we look at. They look at a beautiful cottage like ours, and with the addition, it would look even nicer. I would also point out that Mr. Carr, who spoke earlier about his home looked a lot like ours and all the other ones, but they expanded sideways along the river. You can see the house. His property was originally bought for $528,000 in 2015. They added these 2 additions. The house was sold 5 years ago now, for $1.05 million. The house right next door to us was sold for $205,000. It's assessed now at $400,000. We bought our house for $490,000. It's now assessed at $690,000. Nobody's property values are going down in there by improving everything. The design that we have, that you have all seen, is a really beautiful house. There's nothing unaesthetic about it or non-conforming with the community. In fact, the homes right next to us, the people that are opposing us, the one on the south that they mentioned, we fully supported their addition, 14-foot by 14-foot, two-story addition they put off the back of their classic cottage. It's the red roof one in your packet. They put this huge addition off the back that is we now have to look at all the time, and we approved it. And they are now opposing us doing the same thing because it's going sideways off the house like other houses have done. And everybody brings up the covenants and restrictions, even though it's not part of this. There is a fairness clause in the covenants and restrictions that say, if anybody does it, anybody else can do it too. So the covenants and restrictions just don't matter.
Yeah, they don't matter to us.
At all. I know they don't matter to you, but they don't matter to anyone. What matters here is we need a setback variance so we can just build a first-story home or master suite. What was not mentioned about the medical issues is I have arthritis in both of my hips, and I've been to an orthopedic surgeon many times for this. And eventually I have to have hip replacement surgery, but right now it's very difficult for me to go up and down stairs. And our house, it's an old cottage built in the 1890s. It has very steep stairs that turn on a platform, goes up another step, and comes straight back up. It's very difficult to go up and down these stairs, and it's impossible to put any kind of like lift chair or anything in there. All we would like to do is build a first-story addition. It will not ruin anything in this development. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Does anybody else? No. Does anybody else wish to speak? Is anybody else on the phone, Glenn? All right, if nobody wishes to speak, I'm gonna close this part of the public hearing and questions, comments, statements? Anybody?
Just explain these two little blue strips.
I don't know if I can completely explain them, so they are on there. They are strips that, I'm not sure why they were created specifically, but they're each approximately 18 feet wide. Again, I don't know the complete purpose, but when the property was sold to the Gardners or the predecessors of the Gardners, those strips were incorporated, they were merged together. So if you see this is their most current survey, and you don't see those strips identified, they've been incorporated in. So originally, the lot was 50 feet wide with one was 18 feet and one was 17.9 feet on the other side. So when you look at this one, the distance is 85.51 or 52 feet, which again incorporates those strips. Again, I don't know what they were used for, but at the same time, where they are now proposing to put the additions, the setback is 18, they're asking for 18 and a half feet. So no matter what, it's out of, whatever they're doing is going to be out of that strip.
Yeah.
So you can debate on what that's for, but no matter what, it's not gonna impact that.
Joe?
I know the property very well. I'm a surveyor, and I've surveyed just about everything in there. And I knew a lot of Pat Lawler, her family owned a lot of property in there. But I don't, I've surveyed probably about half of the houses in there. And also done some boundary work over where the pond is, because there was an encroachment over there. The people across the pond brought a dock across and cut across this property. And so I'm very familiar with it. But as to setbacks and things like that, I think whatever the neighborhood is considering would be fine with me. It's a beautiful site. I've got a picture where the steamboat came in there, and all the people were gathered around the steamboat. And there's still some remains from where the chapel was, where they used to have all the meetings. Off to the, I guess it would be the southwest, you can see where the supports were for the meeting hall. Anyway, I would think that if most of the people in there are satisfied with it, it's an unusual place because all the rules have changed over the years about setbacks. And it's hard to consider. I'm sure if Mr. Wharton was here, he wouldn't be crazy about it. But things have changed so much that I don't have any problem with it.
All right. Dan, do you have anything?
No, the only question that I would have had, in looking at our document, our checklist, will not be of substantial detriment. And I think the key word in that is substantial. So I agree with Charlie. I don't see a problem with that. I don't think it creates a substantial detriment.
Brian?
I think that the Gardners have tried to make their addition smaller, to make the other residents a little more happy with it. I feel like they're in a bind with this situation, and that they're doing everything in their power to do the right thing and try to keep everybody happy. Listening to what I've heard, it sounds like they're very mindful in when they're doing their gardens and things like that. So for me, I don't have a problem with the variance.
And I agree, over the years, there's been several variances granted down that way. And I apologize, I can't remember your name, and I didn't write it down, but exactly what you were talking about, the last court case, we have it before us, and we've been schooled on that. And you're right, it's in here, but the way we can approve it.
Right.
I don't have a problem with it, so having said that, I will entertain a motion from somebody who wants to make a motion.
I want to make a quick point.
Go ahead.
So, the ordinance unreasonably restricts the use of the property. Not really. A variance alleviates a hardship due to a physical condition of the property. The slab, maybe, I could see that. Here's the one that I want to pick on. The variance is requested by or on behalf of a person with a disability, and a variance would alleviate a hardship affecting that person with a disability. A disability is different than growing old. So we see a lot of cases that say, I want my mother-in-law suite on the first floor. I don't think that's a hardship. Okay? I'm gonna vote in agreement with this, but I want to make that point, that a disability is not growing old. It's different. That's all.
All right. Anybody want to make a motion?
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
A motion on the floor, properly second, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? It's been granted.
Mr. Chairman, might I say something real quick? Again, you pointed out that we have these, so everyone should have one for each of the applications today. So just, if you wouldn't mind, making sure you fill those out, that would be great, which is mostly just check,
Right.
sign. So just try not to forget to do that. So thank you.
This one's almost close, because they said he has some. Yeah, that's what I said. We were just talking about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the disability, on these, that's right.
Yeah, well, that's what we were just talking
You
about.
just got to get one fixed box.
Thank you. All right,
Okay.
I guess we'll go to our second one, which is the Smoot variance, requesting yard regulation setback.
Yes, sir. So our next is Timothy, it's actually William Timothy and Teresa Smoot of 90 Bighorn Trail, Point Vedra, Florida. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Again, this is another request for a variance from the yard regulations from the 25-foot required setback. The owner is requesting a 15-foot setback distance for both the easterly and westerly side yards. The variance is requested in order to construct a primary dwelling with attached garages located on the property on Queenstown Road, and up on the screen there is a picture of just an aerial of that, that property. The subject property, which contains 0.8 of an acre, is a pre-Bay Act parcel and was created around the inception of the zoning ordinance in 1975. The said parcel was originally created by a division plat of Ball Point, which was recorded in 1976. So according to a survey that the applicant had done for their purchase, as well as for planning purposes, I believe, is this one right here that was done by Bay Design Group. And it shows the building width of the lot, which is that yellow shaded area, is being approximately 69 and a half feet wide. The applicant would ideally like to construct a primary dwelling with two attached two-car garages on either side of the house, thereby creating kind of a U-shaped kind of structure with a courtyard in the middle. The entire structure is to be 1 story. Due to the applicant's current health issues and desire to age in place, the applicant is currently evaluating house plans, and many of those are between 65 and 70 feet wide without a garage. When I did this memo, the applicant had not specifically chosen a plan yet. So I think they're trying to obtain a variance before they go through with having plans. So I don't have a footprint to show you with this. So the applicant is requesting this variance for 3 main reasons. The first, they feel that the yard setbacks would provide, the 15-foot yard setbacks would actually provide a better buffer for the neighbors than the alternative of instead building 2 one-story detached garages, which could then be 5 feet from the property line. In addition, the property is conveyed with a remote drain field area, which is all the way on the left-hand side of that plat there, which is 0.2 of an acre. But according to the applicant's builder, and I think they talked to a soil scientist as well, it's been recommended to place their primary drain field on the actual property and keep that 0.2 acre of a parcel for their remote or their reserve drain field. So doing this would likely put added constraints on the property for dwelling and garage locations. And thirdly, just the property is a pre-Bay Act property, so those types of regulations were not taken into effect or taken into consideration when the lot was created. So, having that 100-foot buffer there adds a little bit extra constraints.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Any questions, Ms. Pratt?
No.
Having said that, we'll open it to a public hearing. If anybody wants to say something, just come to the speaker and give us your name.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm William Smoot. My wife and I bought this property to build our retirement home on. Andrea covered it pretty well as to what we'd like to do. We're basically thinking about like she said, 2 two-car garages with a courtyard in the center, and that width seems to be 85 to 90 feet when we come out in the rough early sketches. We didn't want our house designer to go full bore until we knew about how much width we were going to have to work with. So that's why we've asked proactively ahead of time for the variance. And again, the drain field, we would like to keep the remote one as our reserve drain field, and I've been told from Dan Brown from ERS that it's very likely we can get the initial drain field on the site. I do not want to build a house and then put detached garages 5 feet from the property line. I don't think that does anything for anybody. That's all I've got. Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions?
For me?
Doesn't have any questions.
Thank you, appreciate your time.
Thanks.
Go ahead, is anybody on the phone?
Yes, sir.
All right,
Paul,
sorry.
Paul,
Paul on the phone here?
Yes, good morning, everyone.
Yeah, good morning. If you just state your name and go ahead with your comments.
Hi, good morning. My name is Paul Stefanski and my wife Tiffany Burkett. We're the property owners adjacent to the lot in question.
Okay.
We'd like to oppose the variance. The current lot in question is a very normal shaped lot. It has no existing structures or improvements. And as noted, the survey clearly shows the acceptable lot footprint. I think the proposed request will damage my property values next door. The next door lot is another unimproved lot that I expect to sell as part of retirement income. So I want to make sure I preserve that, the value of that unimproved lot as well. I don't think the proposed footprint, particularly as described with the width, is commensurate with the rest of Ballpoint homes. The house size versus the lot size and footprint as proposed are just counter to everything else in the neighborhood, in the Ballpoint community. And again, such a build would, I think, impact overall values. When we think about the importance of zoning, my wife and I, it's to maintain the character of the neighborhood, protect property values, and ensure orderly development. As we heard in the previous hearing, the three reasons for granting a variance is unreasonably restricting the usefulness of a property, alleviate a hardship, or reasonableness. None of these are valid here as there's no improvements on the lot already. So we would like to oppose, and we believe by the builder, the owner, simply turning their house 90 degrees, they can get that exact same design, that exact same width within the acceptable footprint of the property. That were my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. Anybody else? All right, anybody else wish to speak? All right, I'll close this part. Any questions?
Do you have any questions?
no.
How much is the actual variance they're requesting? 15 feet on each side?
15 feet on each side, so 10-foot
10
encroachment.
feet coming in on each side. Have you spoke to your neighbors? Does this guy know that the next alternative is 5 feet?
That his shed is 5 feet, you mean?
That if you do a
Oh, I don't
unattached
know.
garage,
I
that,
don't know if he knows that or not. He's got a shed that's 6.2 feet from our property line, which is, I mean, and they also build a gravel driveway across our lot that goes to that shed that we had to have removed.
I don't think I have any questions.
Brian, you got anything?
His property has a shed, not a full two-car garage, it's just a shed.
It's it's got like 3 pieces of equipment in it. It's a pretty good sized shed. I'm calling it a shed because it's not very, it's fairly unattractive building.
Mr. Chairman, if I may clarify one point, just for the sake of whoever's online in the audience, if you don't grant this variance, then he could build a single-story garage, 2 on each side, that could be 5 feet from that property line instead of the 15 on each side, which is what's being asked for, which is how his neighbor was able to put that shed there, because it is over the required 5-foot setback. Thank you.
Mr. Spencer's got his hand raised up. I understand that you already closed the public hearing.
Yes, I've already closed it, so. Anything else?
Could we make an exception to hear what he has to say? I just feel this is one of those that if the two neighbors could talk about it, it'd be a lot easier. than
Right.
us
All right,
making a
well,
decision.
if he wants to talk, we'll let him talk for a minute.
I just want to comment on the gravel driveway issue. This was existing from the previous owners before I bought that property 10 years ago. The previous owners owned all those lots. That was their gravel driveway. And I would just also like to comment that Mr. Smoot has never bothered to contact me via email, by telephone, by writing. I was actually called out by the realtor for an encroachment onto his lot.
So again, just from a cultural perspective, no, he's not bothered to do anything to get an insight from his neighbors. And as far as my shed, it's unfortunate he thinks it's ugly. It's a 3-bay tractor shed that's been there for probably since the original structure was built in 1986. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Anything else? I'll entertain a motion then.
When we, make a statement.
Yeah, right.
When we look at, per the guidance previously by the attorney, one of these 3 conditions must be met.
Correct.
I just don't see it in this particular case.
I'm not sure. I think I could almost make an argument as to why the first one wouldn't apply. In my mind, it kind of applies, I think. I understand you got your own opinion,
Right.
that's fine. Because he can't do what he wants to. And I was told by a person who was in this county many, many years ago, we should try to let people do what they want with their property if it's reasonable. To me, this would make it, why would you separate it when you can put it all together? To me, it would look nicer, be better. And in my mind, that's why I think number 1 would apply to this. Now, we're all different, so.
Right.
We all got our own opinions.
Right.
Charlie, you're thinking?
What are they trying to get a variance for? I don't understand it myself.
They're trying to get a variance of 10 feet off.
Side yards?
Side yards. Because he wants to put the house out there and he's gonna come around like a U shape and the garage would be like this. That way they'd be attached to the house. Otherwise, he'd have to move the garages out to 5 feet off each side of the property line.
I see. So the house is already there.
No. They're picking out a house to put on there, but they want the variance before they go into the process of picking out the house.
Trying to do everything ahead of time.
Yes. Right. Make sure they can do it.
I see.
Any thoughts now?
Actually, he's doing it the right way.
Yes.
So they're putting something big on a little lot.
Well, I don't know how big it'll be because obviously it's not there yet.
Do they have something showing?
No, there's nothing else.
No, we
yet.
don't have a floor plan, but what was given to, or the information given to me was that most of the house plans that they were looking at were between 65 and 70 feet wide. The existing building envelope is 69 and a half feet wide. So that's what they're looking at for house width without the garages. So a lot of them are like within that, but once you start adding on the garage, it gets outside of that building envelope.
The other part of why I was thinking of number 1, and you just hit me, was when this lot was made, it goes back to right about the time all these ordinances were coming into play, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
It's correct. So the zoning ordinance was enacted in June 1st, 1975. This particular subdivision plat was recorded in January of 1976. So it's right around that time,
around the
but I
time,
can't say
yes.
whether it's technically, was it approved prior to, is it a
Right.
pre-zoning ordinance lot or is it not? I don't know the answer to that.
But it is definitely a pre-Bay Act lot.
Yes, it is a pre-Bay Act lot.
A pre-what?
Pre-Bay Act lot.
Oh,
So when it
pre-Bay.
was created, they didn't have that 100-foot buffer, which now could be considered part of that hardship.
They
So
want to put a big house on a small one.
Well, once again, I
Maybe
don't know
they're
what
in
size the
wrong
house is.
subdivision. Maybe they need to go to another subdivision.
So Olivia, correct me if I'm wrong, but he can, regardless of what we,
Or buy the lot next door.
he's going to get his garages. It's just a matter of whether or not they're all enclosed or they're out. And it seems to me it would make it more aesthetically pleasing if they were all together versus only being 5 feet off of the line.
Yes, I would be able to approve a one-story, 2 one-story garages, because he's not limited in accessory structures. And they could both be 5 feet from each property line. That's
Right.
correct.
So he's going to be able to get them regardless. They're just going to be, and it's going to look like it was an afterthought and there was a bunch of stuff put on the property after.
Yes,
we thought
sir.
about it. Okay.
Anybody want to make a motion? If nobody wants to make a motion, I'm going to go ahead and make one. I'm going to make a motion that we approve this. And once again, mine goes back to the use of the property. I still think in my mind that comes into play here because of everything, because of the timing of the lots when they were made. But anyway, my motion would be that we approve this variance.
I'll second that, Steve.
All right, so I've got a motion on the floor, and it's been properly seconded. All in favor? All opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay, it's 3-2. So that means.
Motion carries.
Motion passes, yes. All right, moving right along, we have one more, and is it Hafke?
Yes, sir.
Hafke variance.
Okay.
And Ms. Pruitt?
All right, thank you. So our third and final applicant is Ronald and Heidi Hafke of 108 Kimberly Drive, Hanover, Pennsylvania, 17331. This one is a request for a variance from Part 1 of the zoning ordinance, Article 5.3 setback regulations, from the setback distance requirement of 75 feet from the center line of the street or road right-of-way. The owner requests instead a 50-foot setback from the center line of Tidewater Point Lane as it extends onto their property. The variance is requested in order to construct a primary dwelling and a pole barn on the property off of Maryball Road on Tidewater Point Lane. The right-of-way in question, I guess maybe I won't get too much into this, but basically you'll see that the right-of-way in question was created on this particular plat here. And it dead ends, the original right-of-way dead ends right at the Hafke property. Through a series of conveyances and agreements, Mr. and Mrs. Hafke bought 2 acres, basically, of the property, and that right-of-way was extended by agreement over their property to the other neighboring property that's owned by his name is Dr. Strayer. So the particular road is really just used at this point, from what I can tell and what I've been told, by 2 people, which is the applicant and the neighbor to like the south, Mr. Strayer. So basically, the reasoning behind asking for the variance, there's several reasons there, but first, just considering the reasoning for the creation of and limited usage of the right-of-way, the applicant feels that it is more of a joint driveway than a traditional well-trafficked road, and could be given a little bit of leeway in that regard. Dr. Strayer, the owner to the south, has already communicated with the applicant via email, and he has no objections to the variance. The property fronts on tidal waters. Tidal waters, and thus has an RPA feature that, of course, encumbers the property in part. And so by reducing the setback to 50 feet, the applicant feels that they can better ensure that the desired primary dwelling will not encroach in that RPA. The location of the primary and reserved drain field areas also present a little added constraint there to the potential location of that primary dwelling. And for the pole barn area, there's some topography at the rear of the parcel, which the pole barn, it'd be better if it was closer, a little closer to the right-of-way to kind of eliminate some of the costs associated with trying to deal with that topography. So there's a couple of pictures we have. This is that Tidewater Point Road. The one on the left is looking toward Dr. Strayer's property to the south, and the one on the right is looking back towards Maryball Road. So you can see it's a dirt road. To the left on this one, the picture on the left is the area in which the pole barn would be placed, and the picture on the right would be the area in which the primary dwelling would be placed. I think that is it. So in preparing for this, the applicant did speak with an attorney regarding other possible remedies to this. It included abandonment or relocation of the easement. According to the applicant, Dr. Strayer would prefer not to abandon the easement as he enjoys having a secondary access point to his property. The applicant does not feel relocating the easement would be an effective method to be able to allow the construction of both the primary dwelling and the accessory structure and still meet all the necessary setbacks, nor would it be cost effective. And then given the circumstances, it was advised by this attorney that the best remedy would be to request a variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals. So that's where we are today.
Thank you. So my understanding of it is it's basically a dirt road that runs between this gentleman's property and the neighbor's property. And the neighbor has, I've seen the letter in here where he has no problem with.
He has no problem, and he actually has access. So in the picture on the left there, you'll see the driveway goes down and it kind of curves to the right, and that's, where it goes to his, but if it actually goes off to the left as well, and it circles all the way back around to Avis Trail. He's got kind of a big loop.
Okay.
So he has access on the other side, but he likes having this access as well. But it is only, and from what I can tell from, and I'm not an attorney and I'm not a licensed title examiner by any means, but from what I could tell, Dr. Strayer is the only person that has the right to use that. It's not really a thoroughfare for everybody to go looping through there, basically.
Okay. All right. Any questions? We'll get started.
No.
Any questions? All right, I'll open up the public hearing. Would you like to say something, sir?
Yes. My name's Ron Hafke. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Andrea presented it better probably than I can. She's awesome. She's been great during this. I've been coming down here for 20 years. My friend Ed has property down here. I decided to retire, and I was lucky enough to find this lot. When I bought it, I had an understanding that there was an easement through my property, 50 foot. And that's 25 foot from the center road each way for utilities, which the only utilities that's going to go through that is mine. His is already there, and it comes in from the other direction. Because of, and so I go from a 50-foot easement now to a 150-foot easement. And I lose, a lot of property that way. And so I thought, like I said, my deed says 50 foot, and that's what my understanding was. Tidewater Point Lane does end before my property, so this is a shared drive. So I would like to see the 50 foot as my my deed says. But if that's not reasonable, I will take whatever you can give me. The house is going to be, and I do have the plans, and I forgot to bring them in there in the car. But the house runs east to west, 85 foot. It's a house and a two-car garage, and then it runs 71 foot along the river. So the 71 foot I don't have a problem with. It's the 85 foot, the house won't fit. And I have no reason to encroach on the road or anything. I would just like to build, I made a deal with my wife. You know, the good thing about this is she gets the house she's always wanted. The bad thing is we have to build a house. And this is just part of the process, I understand. But that's all I have. If you have any questions, gentlemen, be more than happy to answer.
Happy wife, happy life.
Charlie, got any questions?
No.
Well, like I said, we've been coming down here 20 years. I love the area. I love the people. This is where we want to spend the rest of our lives. So, thank you.
Thank you. Glenn, is anybody on the phone? Nobody's on the phone. Okay. So I'll close this part of the public hearing. Questions, statements, comments?
I guess Charlie could help me with this. If Dr. Strader would happen to one day sell the property, would that affect Mr. Haffey in any way?
I wouldn't think so. Not if this is granted, it wouldn't.
Okay.
That's correct. It would not have an effect. It would already be granted, and that variance rides with the property, not the owner. Good question. May I point out one thing, Mr.
Yes, ma'am.
Chairman? So the 50 feet that's shown on his deed is actually describing the right-of-way and not the setback. And so our ordinance says any right-of-way, which includes private, as you guys know. And so you could argue that that ordinance unreasonably restricts the use of this property in that way as it cuts across his property.
I agree.
Agree, yeah.
What is the hardship?
I'm sorry?
What is the hardship?
He's got a road on
Yeah,
that.
that's the house won't fit on where he wants to put it. And he's got a road that only belongs to him and his neighbor. So he just needs a variance to be able to put his house.
Does he have somebody showing the house on the lot?
He has plans, but he didn't bring it inside.
What I see is just what's there now, not what he wants to put there. I think I did that subdivision, that over off of Eva's Trail,
Correct.
all the way down the end. Yeah. So you're having trouble fitting a house on the lot that you want to put there?
Yes, sir.
But on these drawings, I don't see something showing your proposed house drawn on there.
Sir, if you give me 2 minutes, I can go and get the plans.
I see. Yeah, I remember the subdivision. Is there an existing house down there now?
No, sir.
Because these lots were pretty big.
Could I say something?
I said the lots were good in size,
Yes, sir.
and so I don't understand why you can't get a reasonable size house on there.
If I may add something,
Go ahead.
Mr. Pruitt, this particular lot was Lot 15 of Courthouse Landing subdivision. And so it was a very large, it was like
Yeah,
9
I did the
acres.
subdivision.
Yes, sir. This particular lot was subdivided off, so it's 2.4 acres that was cut off from the original 9.5 acre parcel. So you're correct in the sense that when they were originally created, they were large.
2.4 on the water and left the
Yes, sir.
remainder behind it. I understand that.
Mhm.
But they want to build a house on the 2.4.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, the lot's 220 feet wide, you gotta have 25 feet on each side. So that leaves you like 170 feet of buildable area in the middle of the lot.
Would depend on where the road went through
It's
also.
that, the easement is the issue, correct?
Right, the lot is bisected by that easement, and so it's 75 feet from the center line on either side, which is, you could argue would be the ordinance unreasonably restricting his ability to build there, but also potentially you could look at that as a hardship due to the RPA drain fields and setbacks.
Okay.
Anything else?
Pardon?
Anything else?
No.
I don't want to cut you off.
Go ahead and cut me off.
Anybody else? Got anything?
Just to be clear, if that roadway wasn't there, he could build whatever he
Right.
wanted to build.
Wouldn't be a
Correct,
problem.
that's what I thought.
All right, excuse me, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second?
Been a motion to approve, it's been properly second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Good luck. Yes, sir.
So the variance has been approved for what I asked.
Yes.
Is it too late to ask for the original, what the deed says, the 50-foot? And that way I never have to worry about it.
Well, you're kind of,
I'm
the
literally-
50 feet, like Ms. Hall said, the 50 feet on your deed is the width of the right-of-way, meaning that can't be changed. It is what it is, right?
Yes.
So the ordinance is saying that you have to build a house, the original ordinance is 75 feet from the center line of that right-of-way. The board has just granted you, instead of the 75 feet, 50. So it's not changing, nothing changes your deed. That 50-foot right-of-way is still there. So you go from the center of that road, and you can go 50 feet out, and that's where you can put the edge of your house. Okay.
Yep, thank you.
All right, thank you. Have a good day. Good luck to you. And you have the BZA.
You can go out this way. Yes, we just wanted to let you know that we put together the annual BZA report that was given to the Board of Supervisors. So that is in your packet. I didn't know if anyone had any questions about it, but it just gives you, of course, it's like the year in review of what this board has accomplished. So if anyone has any questions, let me know, but that is just for your records.
All right. Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions about that?
No.
We're good about that? We're good. So the only thing is, reporting the planning commission, and we still haven't played a commission meeting, so. I really don't have a whole lot to say about that. Anyway, anybody else got anything? Anything else coming up that you're aware of?
Do you have anything coming up for the BZA?
No, not right now.
Okay.
All right, and thank you. You do a very good job. Both of y'all do. I want to thank both of you for what you
Thank
did.
you.
Thank you. Well, if there's nothing else, I'll make a motion that we close this meeting.
Second.
All right? All in favor? All right, meeting's closed. Thank y'all very much for coming.